Friday Night Racing
on Off the Ball.
brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie.
Okay, you're very welcome along to a special Friday Night Racing. It's our pre-Christmas special. I'm delighted to say we've got a special guest, Davy Russell, in the studio with us. How are you, Davy?
Yeah, very good.
I'm very well as well. How are you giving out there to some randomer on the internet about taxis?
I am, yeah. It's not been a good morning. Davy is not very well, though. You're under the weather.
Yeah, no, I got a bit of a dose, and I thought I was getting the right side of it. I was taking everything, honey and everything.
You're in your 40s now. You have to look after yourself.
I know, yeah. I was talking to a very clever man. He says age never bothered him. It was when his kids got to a certain age it seemed to bother him. But I'm happy enough anyway.
Actually, when I was coming in here, I read that very line. You were like, if my young lad was 40, then I'd be worried.
Yeah,
It's
I was robbing that from someone else.
You'd be doing all right, though, at that stage.
Yeah.
Come here, the first thing you did when you walked into this was you took the helmet and said, you haven't even put that silk on properly. What's the story with this? You knew from picking it up that it wasn't necessarily one of yours.
Yeah, it's not. No, it's too big, and the style. There's different styles of helmets. There's a champion, and there's all different types of helmets, and really concussion. All these things. We're so lucky that we're in an era now that we have fantastic doctors that really worry or care about our. Well, they always cared, but they really gone into the science of it now. And the helmets are actually designed to be done away with when you get a bad fall.
Right.
So they explode. They take the whole pressure of the fall, so the helmet cracks. Now it can be, if you get 3 falls in one day now, you're going to be, and you have to buy 3 helmets. They're quite expensive. But to be fair, HRI have got involved, and they do help us out that way, as in buying the helmets and stuff.
And how did you know this one wasn't one that you would have been happy?
Well, it's got the champion logo in front. I never used that,
enough,
but I did use one of them one day, and I got halfway around the race, and I thought I was either wanted to pull it up or just for the race to finish, because it had tightened on my head, and it just wasn't comfortable.
It's just the style.
Yeah, it's different styles. There's a fantastic. Well, there you go. It is
there. Yeah.
So I'll show you that at the camera. There are your initials.
That helmet was used once on one occasion only.
This is the helmet.
I think you wore that hurling, did you, or something?
Pardon? No. I rode it in Navan one day, and I got halfway around, and I said, "My God, it had tightened so much in my head. I was just really uncomfortable."
It must be like a helmet when you're hurling that's really annoying you, and you just can't see, or you just can't focus properly.
That's right. There's all there's different things, but that helmet, you see, there's little chips gone off, probably just from being dropped on the ground. But if you when you get a fall one of these, it is designed to
crack,
to smash.
Right.
Was that always the way with helmets, like in your career?
Your head was designed. Yeah. Your head was designed to smash.
The impact,
no, now there's a lot of work gone into it, a lot of science and things going into it. So the outer shell of the helmet, the inner shell stays the same. The outer shell takes the compression, so that your head doesn't take the compression.
That makes sense when you think about it.
Yeah. So, but then you just have to keep, like as a fella says, you've only one head, you have 2 arms, 10 fingers, you can, survive. But if you damage your head, you're in a bit of bother.
In a way, this is kind of quite emblematic of how the game has changed since you started. Are there other changes, or is it actually still fundamentally the same game as when you came into it?
It's fundamentally a big field with obstacles, and whoever gets around there the fastest or first wins. That will always stay the same.
Yeah.
And that is the same in my opinion, it's the same for every sport. If it is hurling, basketball, anything, it's and I think people get away from that, and statistics come in and they try and change, and other people try to justify their part in commentating or whatever part, and that's fine. I understand. There's different ways to earn a living, and I'm with all that. But really, and everything then after that has, I think, progressed and improved and gone to a different level, which is fantastic for us as riders.
What's the biggest change in that you would think?
As a rider, I think...
or even as an athlete?
The general professionalism of it, will say, it could take you 2 days to get home from a race meeting.
Right.
In a roundabout way. You never had, you'd go to the pub, you'd eat and drink and do whatever, and that's gone out of it for the better, I feel. But I started as an amateur, and we really had fun. I never drank, I never drank, but I didn't need drink. I just really enjoyed the whole social scene. But then the whole country has changed, and that day is gone, with drink driving and all that carry on. You know, you can't do that anymore. So I think racing evolved with the country as it went along. I, in my opinion, I feel the care for horses, and I think people get away from that a little bit. We would just take Tyrone, for instance. He, at the moment, is after getting a chip removed from his leg. When I started, you couldn't imagine that happening, you know. So then that horse would eventually, you know, peter out, and he wouldn't be able to run anymore. Nowadays, the care and attention that goes into its prevention is always better than cure. So they're now able to, the things they're able to do with you know, the vets, and it's a whole team. It's the horses are involved in the team, the jockeys in the team, the trainer, the owners, you know, and it's a huge network of people that the care for horses and everything. I think everything is changing for the better.
That's information and communication and understanding that you have data that they don't have that is useful.
Yeah.
And likewise, that they have information.
But I think it's the want. The want is there for everything to be better and safer and happier. You know, whereas before it was just kind of he'll be grand. No, it's that approach is gone out of it now. Now it's we're going to make sure he's grand. And we're going to do everything in our power, whether it's the man or the beast or whoever it is, you know, or the woman, whatever it is involved in it. The attention to detail is gone through the roof.
Yeah. Are you the same in terms of the amount of analysis you would do before a race? Has that improved? Has that changed?
Yeah, definitely.
Or actually, has it changed in that you're like, okay, I actually know all these horses and I've seen them all already, and so instinctively...
Well, it's funny, when you start, we'll say, 24 years ago, thereabouts, like, Davy wouldn't have access then
No,
to...
exactly.
Like, you've everything now. You've a video of every race, like, your form is there on your phone.
Yeah.
And as much as kind of your, I suppose, smartphones, like, they've good and bad points, but just the way...
I would say mostly good, and it all depends what way you use it. You use it. That's up to the individual.
But like, even though I interviewed you when you weren't long out of Ferdy Murphy's and you just started off, but even in that time, an awful lot has changed, and your access to you've no excuse now in terms of preparation, I suppose. No, and you've no excuse. I'm willing to learn if you made a mistake and you need to see it. It's there to be seen, and all the form is there, and you can go back and look at it, and I do, and I actually enjoy it.
Right.
And it's one side of it, you know, that never gets tiring. I would. What really disappoints me is if I go to the races and if I get beat or nearly beaten by a horse that I didn't consider as a threat, or I didn't know that it was it was there, or I just went willy-nilly to a meeting and said, I'm after getting away with that one now. You know what I mean? I don't need that to happen again. Because it's all there. There's no excuse anymore. And that's kind of... Before you used to get away with it a bit more.
But last night at the HRI Awards, when Pat Smullen and Ruby Walsh were talking together about how they used to kind of combine their thoughts on racing, and one drove the other in terms of, like, if you got beat, it drove you, because if I get beat here...
We done that as a country about everything. We spoke about hurling, we spoke about football. You went to the pub and you spoke all about these things, because one fellow was on one side of the pitch and the other fellow was on the other side of the pitch, and he said, did you see your man? He said, no, he didn't do that. Well, he said, I was sitting over him and he did do it. And it's the same, that's what we done back in the day. We sat down and we spoke, whereas now you have it there, and you often see a lot of lads, you don't know whether they're looking at Twitter or they're looking at the form, but a lot of lads... The Wareham is a different place, and but in England, you're not allowed to have your phone use your phone.
Or a bad thing.
Toss of a coin, whichever way you want to look at it. For me, it is on about betting. That didn't play a part in it. But you have to go into the Wareham now in England, you have to talk to someone. Whereas in Ireland, they could be on the phone. Now, we do talk because we're good old, we get on, but I could see it at one stage, everybody just sitting in their seat.
This interests me now, because dressing rooms have changed to such an extent, I think, that managers are trying to manage kids on phones rather than actual players and personalities. And, like, if you're a football manager, should you allow them to even have their phone in the dressing room? I'd never heard that discussed in racing before, that, like, the British authorities brought the ban on phones in from jockeys on this dubious premise that jockeys could be relaying information. Yeah, he's not trying today or whatever. Which to me, like, it's kind of like... don't cross the road because if you jaywalk, sometimes you might get hit by a car. It doesn't happen, like. But
that day is gone. Like, okay, back in the day when there was, different horses were running under different names, and there's all these stories.
Yeah. But your point is that you have to talk now in the weighing room in Britain because nobody has phones. So you have to, and it's a nice thing. Like
the art of conversation.
Yeah.
It's lost a bit.
But
racing, a jockey must have a really good rider could suffer if he's not able to speak to someone. It is a part of being a rider.
And I spoke to a trainer about that last night as well. I was saying, like, you're a very good trainer, I think, but you are not into the art of going to the pub and talking crap to owners that you might get in that. A lot of very good trainers, they just do their job and they're kind of shy and
but that's fine
and
too,
a lot of sort of less good trainers are very good at selling themselves. And it's funny the amount of trainers that you see, like you're saying about jockeys as well, you have to be able to communicate and so forth, like.
Oh, you must. It's definitely a part of it,
Results ultimately are what people want from what owners want.
At the end of the day, look, come here. At the end of the day,
them
all you want. But at the end of the day, you must be. But I was saying when I started out, I had an awful fixation on being stylish. And
as a rider.
Yeah.
And how would you define that?
Oh, well, you probably, the media had Paul Carberry there, and then, flat jockeys were nearly always more stylish because they didn't have obstacles in their way, as in to lose their style, you know what I mean? It was easier to be a neater jockey as a flat rider than it was to be a jump rider. But
it's very interesting you say that now, because that was apparent in his early days, that you had a beautiful sitting horse, you looked the part.
Oh, but I worked very, 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 very hard on it. I was borderline obsessed with it.
Probably to your detriment, to an extent.
Well, I wanted to be stylish, and I thought that. No, I didn't put a huge thought in it, but looking back on it, if you look like a jockey, we'll say, and you dress correctly, and you do things at a normal, you kind of have a chance of being that thing.
It's fake it till you make it, in a way.
Yeah.
Which isn't actually a bad thing, really, especially when you're just coming through.
No, and you need to be neat and tidy. Now, I know I'm in a hoodie now, but I'm dying with a cold, and I actually just put it on before I got out of the car. But
were you ruthless enough, though, then, in your early days, in terms of... Were you more fixated with how you looked or the performance?
Oh, no,
you're a better rider now than you were when you were 20, for example.
Not how I looked, as in... As in my appearance, but it was how I looked on a horse.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, so when you were 20 years of age, like I remember in your early days riding for Ferdy, did you have the ruthless streak in terms of winning races?
Oh yeah. But I was 23 now when I turned professional. I had given 3 or 4 years as an amateur before that, and I was lucky that it was a slow introduction. Like, I started riding when I was 16. I didn't ride my first winner until I was 19, and then I rode for 3 or 4 years as an amateur. And so I had a real long, slow burner into the game, and I had enough time to do that. And then, but when I turned professional, I didn't know. I knew very little about it.
When you went to Britain, it was a big step from where you'd been.
Massive,
to,
yeah. And
to
I didn't
realise...
realise...
good job, and you're racing every day of the week, and you're on TV and so forth.
Yeah, I didn't realise it. I didn't realise it was going to be as big a step, but it wasn't long kicking in that I had to improve literally 50% onto where I was. I thought I was a rider when I was turning professional, but I wasn't.
How do you improve as a 23-year-old?
Oh, you just have to.
How? What do you do?
I don't know. You need to learn things. You see, I wasn't concentrating on it's not explained to the greater public about handicap marks, and a horse has a level of ability the same as a human being. So whether you're on the junior B club team or you're on the senior team, depends on your performance, on what you're training, and what the amount you put into it. So it's very similar to a racehorse. So they're allocated a handicap mark, and you as a rider need to relay information to a trainer or an owner to say, look, he needs to be at 80, rated 80, which is quite low, or this is a fair horse. He could run up into a good listed race, which is high 120s, early 130s. and as in a figure that they're given, and then to go into graded class, it's another step up and another step up and another step up to the very, very top, which is very easy to see. But the problem is for every horse to be in the correct bracket for his ability. So that would have been my job. When Ferdy's training 100 plus horses, you want every horse in the yard to be successful to whatever level of ability he has. So my
It's keeping yourself in the best of company and your horse in the worst of company.
Yeah, and part of my job was to relay that information to Ferdy and say, look, this horse needs to be stepped up in trip. He needs to be stepped back in trip. He needs to go into a handicap. His handicap mark is too high. He needs to come down on a handicap mark, or this horse is well handicapped. We're going to have loads of fun with this horse. And he could be after doing that on his own, just by mistake, because he could have been immature, number of different reasons. And there's all these things going through your head, and you need to be snappy. They don't want you to know tomorrow, they want to know now, and you move on to the next horse, and you must have the answer for the next horse, and you cannot not have the answer.
But like say you were with Ferdy Murphy, and that Ferdy Murphy passed away this year, and he was like your first big job, but you were fresh out of point to points, right? So all of a sudden you're riding in 2 mile hurdle races, you're riding in 0 to 95s, you're riding in good races, and it's a big step for you to be able to know that, like what you're talking about there, like that, like
I didn't have a clue.
You're a fish out of water, would say. Like.
But the beauty of the man was he knew it was in me. And Ferdy was a manager at the time, the same way Gordon Elliott is, or Willie Mullins. He knew it was in me just to get it out, or to put it in me. So he stuck by me for as long as he could, do you know what I mean, until I wanted to come home, and that was it. I just wanted to come home. But Ferdy knew that it was there.
See, it's an education. It's an educational process. That's how you improve.
But you must either keep learning and keep progressing, or you just stay at a level the very same way a horse will, the very same way a greyhound will, or a boxer, or a hurler, or a...
And if they see it, they keep loading you with information, and they give you more and more to the point you can take it.
Yes.
And if you can't take it, you're like, thanks very much, lads.
Yeah.
You know, it's been a great experiment. Off you go.
Yeah.
Were you homesick? Is that why you came home?
It was funny. Okay, the answer to the question was probably yes. But my problem was, I used to get into a car and I used to drive. Now, I could have been driving north, south, east or west, but I was told to be at a certain point at a certain time. But I didn't know how I was getting there. I knew I was driving, or I was getting spinners or whatever, but I knew no place in between.
Yeah, sat-navs in those days.
No sat-nav, no. But you got onto a motorway and you drove, and you got off at a certain junction, and you went down there and you went to road 5 or B, Q, Z, and then you were at the race course. And I got to the race course, and I just done the exact same thing every single day. Whereas when I was at home in Ireland, you drive through Tallow, you go into Fermoy. Them days you just go to Kilworth, Mitchelstown, Cahir, Cashel, stuck in traffic everywhere. But I knew exactly where I was going, and I knew that if there was a traffic jam in Cashel, I could go around by Douala and get back on at the Horse and Jockey. When I was in England, if there was a traffic jam in Stratford, that's the only place I could... Yeah. I just didn't know. I didn't know where I was going, and it meant nothing to me, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, totally.
You started coming back Sundays then to ride for...
So I always came back Sundays.
Yeah. And it became more of a thing then, it was like...
Yeah, but there was no Sunday racing in England at the time. And then look, it was a long old week now. We were racing in England every single day. You had to ride out in the morning. You had to get used to the horses, so I was doing that at 6 o'clock. It was a long day, I was wasting. I then was getting on a plane Saturday evening and coming home to ride Sunday and back in England to ride Monday. And Ferdy, rightly so, felt that he was suffering because of that I needed Sunday off, I needed a day off, he was a great believer that a jockey should have a holiday, he let everything settle down and lengthen out your career, whereas I was the opposite. I didn't need any holiday, I didn't need any day off. I just wanted to go bang, 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 bang. And I was getting injured. He was feeling the brunt of it, and he said, no Sunday. If you go home on Sunday, you're not coming back here. I was declared on the horses on Sunday, and I went, and
That was that.
That was it.
Yeah.
Did you make peace with him afterwards?
Oh, I rode Cheltenham Festival winners and everything for him.
Right, so that was
A gentleman.
But he was
like.
a brilliant man, like. He
Yeah.
was a brilliant man. His lads are brilliant. His daughter was a secretary for Gordon, Zoe. She was a fantastic girl. You know, everything about him was solid as a rock. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, God, I miss him now, to be honest. He was a great man. And I didn't ring him enough, but I was talking to a couple of guys that my success meant so much to him, you know, and his son is a good friend of mine, Paul, and, you know, he was just...
I suppose you regret that when they're gone as well. In that,
you do, sure. Look, it's the same as
life gets in the way. It's just
yeah, but we should be getting out and talking to people more anyway. But we don't, and that's it. And we get involved so much in the game, it just gets caught up with you. But
No, it's true. I just want to remind everybody, Friday Night Racing on Off the Ball brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie, or you can follow the new Twitter account at HRI Racing, and the hashtag is every racing moment. When you came back to Ireland, how long did it take you to become somebody who...
oh no, 2 seconds.
Right.
Yeah, I was riding for Noel Mead. I was riding for Edward O'Grady, a brilliant man in Mick O'Brien, and I was Liam Burke, Eugene O'Sullivan, all these fellas, Jimmy Mangan, everyone. I'd any
the
amount
stock
of
was
horses.
good from the point days.
Oh, I did any amount of horses to ride. Robert Tyner, all them fellas. I was riding for them all. The biggest problem was not upsetting someone when I didn't ride for
Right,
them.
yeah. That's a good situation. So obviously they recognised a lot in you. Your ability at that point to communicate with them, and also your ability as a horseman.
Yeah, well, sure, I suppose, as you said yourself, just the results, you know, they were riding winners. Charles Burns, Charles was brilliant.
Davy and Charles Burns is a relationship that I think most people maybe will think about, even more so in some respects than you and Jigginstown. It's like Davy and Charles, when Davy was on a horse that was relatively fancied for Charles, and Davy would tell the story of, he wouldn't know that, like, he'd go through out to the track in Thurles from the parade ring, and he wouldn't know if the horse fancied or not. He might see then on top of the bookies board.
He'd be fancy. He'd be fine.
But you and Charles Burns...
Charles, anything I ever ride for Charles is fancied. He's just a very good trainer. People have this stigma that he's this, that or the other, but he's not. He's actually one of the best men to ride for, and I
don't know how he doesn't have more horses. Genuinely, he's not expensive. He's
a very good trainer. He's
a trainer,
very good.
and
maybe his communication maybe is not dissimilar to other trainers, but I just love riding for him. I just really enjoy riding for him. He's a great man to ride for.
Yeah, they travel, they jump, and he's generally.
But even that, it's. He doesn't fancy a horse that hasn't the ability to win a race, if you know what I mean. Like, he doesn't... A lot of people go out and they'll be telling you that, this has a chance now, you better, you...
20 lengths.
The next thing you go out and you get halfway around the race and you're saying, come on, what are you doing? And you come back and you say, no, that horse needs to be dropped back in class or something. Yeah. But Charles, the likes of Charles, and people like him, Gordon, they know all these things already. They have an eye in their head, Willie Mullins.
No bullshit.
No bullshit. They can see things.
Yeah.
No, and a lot of times I would be wrong about a horse. I'd say, look, Charles, this fella is limited. And he'd say, I'll give you limited. Now he says, he said he'll be grand. Do you know what I mean? He'd find the level for that horse, if you know what I mean, where that horse can be very competitive. And that's what it's all about. It's all about finding the level. People look at a day's racing and they don't see the 0 to 95s, they don't 0 to 102s.
That's what most owners of horsing like.
They don't know what beginners' chases are. Yeah. It takes a hell of a good horse. Like, you have to run to a rating of, at this time of the year, minimum you have to be a 120 horse, minimum, and lucky to win a beginner's chase. If you're 120, you have to be over that, as in his figure of ability. That's the mark he's got. Yeah. And then during the summer, that figure changes, and different tracks it changes and things. But that's kind of gone too. There's good horses will win in any track,
All this store of information you have, at some point you'll stop being a jockey just because it's a physically difficult thing to do.
I don't think I'll ever stop being a jockey.
That's it. Maybe
rider Davy Russell.
But look, maybe that's
true. Sport is getting off a horse.
But maybe in terms of your identity, that's exactly you'll be Davy Russell jockey forever. But it's a lot of information you have and a big wealth of knowledge. Are you already thinking about what comes next? Are you thinking about...
No, but that doesn't mean that I'm right. That's the beauty about the game. My knowledge, my opinion, is a lot of it is... You see, that's the thing. You see, we're relating off a feel. So I've kids, I've young children. I've a little boy at home who he hasn't started speaking yet, but he knows exactly what we want him to do. And I know exactly what he wants because I'm with him every single day. I know when he wants his bottle, when he wants his dodie, when he wants to go outside, and that's all we have with a horse. We have no verbal, so it's all feel. So everything we do is feel. So what I feel and what someone else feels could be completely different, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So what my information about a horse could be completely different to someone else's information about that same horse. So it's all about opinion.
Yeah.
And your opinion could be wrong.
It could be
right.
It could be. I'd say at this stage, though, you've done your 10,000 hours and another 10,000 and another 10,000. And at this stage, are you interested in training, I suppose, is the...
I'm very interested in training. I would love to train horses, but not for all the tea in China would I go training horses.
Right.
It is... I would probably... The most I would probably ever do is train a couple of mares of my own, fillies that I've bred that were left over to a certain extent. But I don't... You see...
Is that not a gateway drug? Will you not get addicted that way, going, oh, these two, if I just had two more now...
No.
I see a race there that's not very well good.
But my problem is to start... You just started zero again. Oh, man, I don't know if I could. I'd just go way down to the bottom of the list again. And I'm older and maturer now, and I'm thinking, like...
What's the point?
Well, when I was younger, I was carefree.
Yeah.
Youth is wasted on the young, you know what I mean? So
yes, I do.
Signing in.
Carefree, and you don't worry about them things. So and now your family took after, and it has to bang, 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 bang. So
but you got to put bread on the table. So what are you going to do? Do you know?
I'm going to go farming. I have a farm, and I'm going to breed a couple of horses, and I'm going to work for Off the Ball, and I'm going to...
Russell signs up for Off the Ball.
No, but I
mean, in what regard? Like,
I do like work. I enjoy working. I breed. We have a good setup of mares at home, and I buy and sell a lot of horses. Some very, a couple of nice horses. We put through our hands and things. So, it's if. It'll be something to do with horses. I know.
Yeah,
so that's all I ever know. So
national hunt breeding, or
I would love to have a very good flat mare, but that is
expensive.
Yeah, you have to put an awful lot of work into it, and my knowledge of the flat breeding at this present moment in time is not sharp enough, and I have paid that lesson through my pocket.
Right.
So I think I just might step back from that a small bit.
Okay, fair enough.
And stick to
the expensive lessons tend to be the best ones in the long run.
Yeah.
Because you don't make them twice.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, you do with horses. You kind of make them about 10 times, and then you realise this isn't working.
This is a funny time of year for us to be talking, looking back at the year, because you're in the middle of a season. So calendar years don't really work for. In this industry, it doesn't really work. It works on the flat, but it doesn't work in National Hunt, because obviously the season. Well, it is kind of a 12-month season, but...
fully 12 months.
But obviously there are peak highlights around Cheltenham, the Dublin Racing Festival, Punchestown and the National. Can we go back to Cheltenham and maybe... What's your retrospective on what happened at Cheltenham last year?
It wasn't good, I know. I didn't ride a winner there.
Is that the first time in...
First time in quite a number of years, yeah. I've honestly forgotten the one horse that sticks out as Delta Work, but anything else...
Did you ride him wrong?
People think I did. I most certainly did, because I didn't win the race. But like,
people I don't get this at all now, because that was a proper race.
Yeah.
So it was a slightly cat and mouse race, but it was a proper race, fine margins.
People said I should have kicked on. I think quite the opposite.
Yeah.
I should have stayed behind. I had Paul Nicholls' horse. I'm a Game Changer. Game. The big Flemingford horse.
Yeah.
And I had Nicky Henderson's Milan horse. whatever his name is, Santini.
Santini top of the game.
Top of the game.
Sorry.
I had them in front of me, and I knew exactly where I wanted them. I had them where I wanted them, but my jumping wasn't good enough, and I ended up in front of them, which was not ideal on my horse.
Too early.
Too early. And if I had my time back, I would have waited behind them. And
why did you take it up?
I ended up in front of them because my jumping wasn't good enough. So what I had to do was, when he was getting in close, he was just had no respect for him. So I needed him to be long, and he got too quick at his jumps, and I ended up in front of them. Whereas a normal horse that was jumping with the way he does, he normally jumps really well. I would just got into a rhythm of just popping, going along in a rhythm. That rhythm didn't happen. It was a stop-start, keen, settle, miss a fence, jump a fence.
Top of the game at Dower Stair then, and you're kind of like...
Yeah, and I was in front of him. I should have been behind him. I should have let him get to the front, and I would have had one go at him after the last. That's the way I would like to redo things. But then some people said I should have kicked on when I got to the front, and I should have just put the boot to the board and kicked on. And
do you respect that people talk an awful lot of crap that kind of aren't necessarily riding the horse and really don't read the situation properly?
Well,
it may be right as well.
Yeah, but that's the thing. As I said, it's an opinion. It's an opinion. All I do know is what I done on the day was not correct because I didn't win the race. So I would like to go back and do something different.
But with all due respect, David,
I cannot do that, and it may not change the result.
Yeah, but you just because you didn't win the race doesn't mean you were wrong. On the day,
well, it does.
You're outstayed by two other horses.
Well, it does mean I was wrong because I didn't win the race. I need, and that's...
You may not have won that race under any circumstances.
No, I may not,
day,
and that's the thing we don't know, and that's the thing, it doesn't bother me. Unfortunately, I have to get over it, and I have gotten over it, and that's just the way it is. But when you ask about it, if I would do things differently, yes, of course I would, because I needed to get a different result. And my thinking on that to get a different result was I would have waited behind them and tried to get that result that way.
Can I ask you about that, not bothering you? Because obviously you referenced what some other people think you should have done. That's always going to be the case, particularly in a sport that's televised, and particularly around Cheltenham. Does that get easier or more difficult to deal with?
Easier.
Is it? Yeah. You can dismiss it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't really... Please don't get me wrong, I don't mean I don't care. Of course I care what people think. They're very important. But the people I care about are the owners and the trainer and a network of people around. And then there's other people that have an opinion that I think are excellent race readers. Now, they might never have seen or touched a horse in their life, but they just have an uncanny knack of reading a race.
That you respect?
That I would respect.
But that's fair enough.
And that's the way life is. And, and after that then, if, unfortunately, there's money lost in it, and that's fine, but I felt at the time that they were the cards I dealt, so they're the cards I played.
But you are on Twitter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Like if you'd had Twitter...
That's a good thing, because I tell you, I have fun on it. You come across some very interesting people. You come across some very funny videos.
Yeah.
Like the two boys baiting each other, the father and son, it's a slap ball. Did you see that with the helmet? It is priceless. So it has them, and in all your approach on it. Now, okay, I get fellas, I think writing me messages, it's an awful shame you don't break both your legs. But, that's a fool. That's
probably not with his actual name on it either.
Yeah, but it's a very poor person of way of thinking, and he probably has other issues now that I don't need to be getting into.
Yeah.
But I just don't get into it. And I understand people can get irate. There was an issue on about the bypassing of the fence, and I was going to get involved in it, and I thought maybe better off not.
Like last Saturday?
Yeah. And
deleted tweets if you could see what everybody deletes from their Twitter.
Yeah. But getting back
delete rate this month,
Twitter,
3%.
we run a charity event in Newbridge for Hurling for Cancer. Without the likes of Twitter, like that is just like...
That's a good point, like, because it does come into its own in that regard. GoFundMe and so forth and all that.
Yeah, and so I'm not knocking Twitter. I'm not going to knock Twitter. again, it's the individual. Now, what I do have a problem with Twitter is the youth and young people, and they should not be in. Whether you put an age group on it, I don't know.
Well,
but
even your own self, 20 years ago when you were just starting out, if you were losing races like the one we just talked about, if somebody was giving you grief 20 years ago, you might not have been as equipped to deal with it as you are now at this stage of your career. Is that fair?
I would like to think I would have dealt with it reasonably well, but again, it's hard to know because we weren't in that.
No.
That's a different. The kids don't realise what they're missing. The
Simpler
fun.
times.
Yeah, when somebody didn't have a camera out as soon as you were getting up to some good stuff.
Yeah, or literally doing a dance or something, and then look, Davy Russell is drunk.
Yeah.
When you know,
video of it,
we
though.
didn't have that.
Yeah.
You know?
You wore a Tiger Roll baseball cap in here today.
Yeah.
That must have been pretty special. That must have been like that bit where you're going, hang on a second, this is actually happening. Do you remember that moment?
I was asked that last night, but it's kind of been clouded because I've watched the race so much. So now I'm watching it as where I was in it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, totally.
So it's two different. It's the same as the punter looking at it and the jockey doing it. It's two different things, if you know what I mean.
I'm going to screw this story up, right? But there was an experiment done on 100 people where they were all brought to a place and a robbery happened in front of them. Something like 17 or 18% accurately remembered what they had seen with their own eyes, and the rest of the crowd had been chatting about it outside and completely misremembered what they'd literally just seen.
This is why, the evidence that you use in cases of, the person who saw, that it was like recognition by someone who was there is such a flawed technique because. And I'd say, like, your memory of the race has probably changed a lot over time as well because it's what you're saying. Like, I was there, now I'm a spectator almost, and I'm watching in.
It's so fast.
Even though it's 10 minutes long.
Yeah,
it's like so much.
Out of your life, though.
It's like a flash of light, because I look at it and I would think, oh, I was doing that there, and I don't remember that.
Yeah.
But I'd done it looking at it. But while I was doing it, it isn't the same reason what my mind is telling me when I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
It may be completely different.
You're putting a narrative on it afterwards.
Yes.
Well, you're riding the favourite, a fairly hot favourite, one of the hotter favourites you get in the Grand National. So that in itself is like...
But you're speaking about the Grand National. You see, that's the difference between certain people. You see, your view on that is he's favourite, right? My view on that is he's a horse and he has so much to do. But your view on it is...
My view on it is he's the most likely winner of the race.
Yeah.
So you're not riding a 25 to 1, do you know what I mean? So
But
there
I
is...
am.
You're not, like, you're riding the most likely winner of the race,
yes,
and there's
but
pressure on you.
Yeah, no, there isn't. There's no pressure on me.
Right.
Because he's 20, he's actually 40 to 1 because there's 39 other horses in the race, and any one of them can win the race. So he's not 3 to 1 favourite, and he's 40 to 1 because he's this exact same chance.
You can't believe that, though.
No,
and I'm not even talking about pressure. I'm on about you must go out there thinking, I have a right chance here.
No, of course
and
I do.
belief in the horse.
Of course
as
I do.
opposed to if
but
I get one wrong,
I
I'm done.
equate everybody else in the race to be 40 to 1. Do you know what I mean? So, like, I don't give anybody else. I don't think anybody else has a better chance than me. I think I have the best chance in the race, but I don't.
My point. Yeah.
But I don't care. The 3 to 1 is not in my mindset. I don't care about it. I am not going to have that much a Pat Smullen Cup that we must for Cancer Trials Ireland that we need to. But I'm not going to have that much on a horse because I cannot. It's not in my. It never was.
I don't mean the price, sorry.
No,
I mean that
I know.
you've more faith in...
I'm not saying, but...
Well, say if you got up in a spare in the National, right, and he was 100 to 1, you can't approach the race the same as if you're riding Tiger Road.
I can.
How? Like, so, I will go out there with ultimate faith in this horse, or I'm riding a 100 to 1 shot that I know nothing about.
No.
You can't approach it the same
I can,
way.
of course I can. But until that stops, you must live the dream. Like, you must... Like, what's the point in going out there?
Thinking you have no chance.
Pretty dangerous sport, and if I'm going out, like, that's another thing. If I'm going out there just for the £100, I'm not. I don't want to. I don't. That's not. Nobody. The sport. You should never do that. There's no clocking in horse racing. It is. You just don't do it. You cannot clock in horse racing. You must go out to be successful and win. Now, and it's not to the money, but it doesn't matter if he's 100 to 1. It doesn't matter if he's 5 to 4. Of course it matters, but I'm talking about once I have my homework done, that I know where the bits are going to be, the price has nothing to do with it, to me.
Yeah.
If it does, I went out on a horse the other day, 1 to 25. I never rode a horse 1 to 25, but like, that didn't make any difference to the way I rode him. You know, it didn't make any difference to the respect I had.
Because if it does, then you become you go insane fairly quickly.
But then I just jump out and go absolutely hammer times. I can't get beaten here. This is just, you know.
Yeah.
But you can. That is the thing about horse racing.
For Joseph O'Brien in Australia in the Champion Stakes, and he'd probably admit this himself, it was the one instance that this horse, it's about making sure things don't go wrong. So it's like he went out there probably fearing a mishap more so than just be straightforward and basically ride the horse like he's like any other race. And he went very wide around the turn, forfeited ground to avoid trouble. And he'd probably admit that, and he will admit this, that was one of the races he'd love to get back, like Delta Work.
Yeah, but I disagree with that, because I was at the awards last night and they gave two of the most professional riders, Barry Geraghty and Pat Mullen, said that you must get out around Leopardstown.
This was effectively a 3-horse race.
No, I know, I saw it. But
Billy
Joseph,
Lee got ride of the year.
Yeah, he did, and he rode that horse exactly the way Joseph rode Australia. Now, Joseph
not
is
exactly, no.
Joseph is in a way that he was an exception. He's an exceptional human being. Like, we do not appreciate what Joseph O'Brien is, and Donncha may be coming along behind him and his parents as well. But Joseph O'Brien was the most outstanding rider of a racehorse that we will see for a long, long time, as in his age to what his size and what he'd done. Oh, he was fantastic. For him to even worry about getting beaten Australian, I disagree. I think he'd done the right thing and wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
And they took the ride of the year to beat him.
Well, the ride of the year was Billy Lee, given as somewhat in that Billy Lee was held up in last place, but made sure that he wouldn't get locked in trouble.
Two of the best riders. Pat Mullen says that's the way to ride Leopardstown.
Yeah.
That's the way Joseph rode Australia in Leopardstown, and he got beaten.
And look, that happens. Even the great riders get beaten. Is there anything from the memory that is real, you think, of Tiger Roll? Is there anything you think that hasn't been tainted or covered by the TV coverage yet?
Oh, it's there. It's there only just to
chisel it out.
Yeah.
Your dreams some nice. Now I remember.
Yeah, I remember loads of things, but the day itself kind of is gone by on me, and but it was just euphoria. Like I felt, I did realise he wasn't just, he was a little bit behind the bridle to be perfect. So I just hit him a slap down the shoulder going to Valentine's the first time, and he went a little bit too much over, and I did feel that he was travelling too much.
Right.
So I always felt that I needed to slow him down. And he didn't meet fences on a really long stride. He just met him in a bit close, and he just kept doing that the whole way. I can remember doing that the whole way and just crossing the Mellon Road. I was literally lifting my hands off the wither to slow him down. And just, it was a little bit of fear that when I did drop him down to go, that that the petrol tank just might go, but it didn't. But credit has to go to Gordon, and how you get a horse mental. People don't realise about the mental aspect of a racehorse, that he must be able to believe that he can win, and to get a horse back to Aintree, that big massive place, to enjoy it the way Gordon got Tiger Roll back there to enjoy it is spectacular.
Just briefly on that, how much thought you put into, like when you said you gave him a slap early in the race, that could backfire, like. So
very fast. I thought it had.
How much do you think about that, or is it pure instinct?
It's instinct. As I said, it's the feel.
Yeah.
You're going off a feel. It's the same with children. Like, that it's completely the feel, and whether I'm getting the right or the wrong signals is, the result of what you do is going to tell you the answer. So until you do it, you don't know the answer.
And are you almost doing that before you've thought about it, because it's all natural? It's just like, that's my way of cajoling this horse at this particular moment.
Well,
you're in unison with the horse, we'll say.
Yeah, it's all about rhythm, and he's thinking the same way I'm thinking, and that we're in a rhythm. It's all about rhythm. It's all about the dance floor.
Well, hopefully you'll get a chance to do it all again.
Hopefully, yeah.
And make new memories.
Yeah.
There was a good moment last night where it was like all credit to Tiger Roll and all that, and Davy's like, yeah, we have a great relationship, just have to keep it intact now, and gives a big barge into Eddie O'Leary, who appreciates the joke.
Eddie's a great man now. He's been very good to my career, and he'd take that light-hearted. It was all...
He absolutely did.
It was all in jest, but he's been a huge part of my life, really,
We just need to keep the campaign to get the handicapper on side to allow history to happen.
The handicapper will do the right thing.
That's
He'll do
just
the right
Michael.
thing.
Michael's just.
No, it's not. He has a point. No, he does have a point, and you must understand. Tiger Roll is his baby, so put yourself into Michael O'Leary's shoes for a second.
So he doesn't want to see him beaten in an unfair contest.
He wants him fairly, the same way in the past that horses were fairly treated. What he wants is the compression of weights, so that it encourages a really good horse to run in the Grand National.
Which wasn't always the case.
Which was not always the case. So he just wants fairness across the board, and not to get this thing of just, for the sake of it, just lumping the weight onto him.
Yeah. But the Grand National
which is the easiest thing for the handicapper to do. The hard thing for the handicapper to do is to do the fair and right thing and compress the weights. That is the hard thing for him to get out, not to upset the other 39 horses that are running into or the other greater, wider.
I preferred it the way it was, where like the likes of Papillon and Bobby Joe, they could not win a national now. It's just it's a classier race. So I prefer it when it was like that, but each to their own, I suppose.
Right, there is plenty of action to look forward to over the festive period with the Leopardstown and Limerick Christmas festivals. The main attractions obviously here. The King George at Kempton shaping up to be a cracker in the UK as well. For the season that's in it, we're putting the €100 tote charity bet for the Irish injured jockeys in Davy's hands, as we want a winner. What are you looking at this Christmas for us? I think it's one of Willie Mullins.
Yeah, very impressed by him. A horse by Policymaker. Just very impressed by him visually last year. Very lightly raced horse, and I think he will make the step up to senior company. Soft to the ground, the better. Typical one of Willie's at Christmas time. Chacun
pour soi. I think it means everyone for himself in French, but
well, there you go.
There we are. The fact that he beat Davy Desoy very, very easily at Punchestown on his second Irish chase start now looks, at least visually, looks ridiculous. But
for Christmas, we're giving you a bet too, Johnny. Not just for Christmas.
Yeah,
like
I haven't done any prep on this whatsoever, so I'd probably
maybe
be a better
we'll
chance.
get a winner this time. Hey.
Envoy Allen, wherever he goes, I'm just going to be very original.
What about
One run.
What about Lorena?
Lorena's going to be wherever she rocks up. There's a lot of interesting aspects to this, because Limerick is a proper good novice chase to Christmas.
Well, it's a grade one. It's a grade one chase on Stevens's Day.
Yeah, Lorena will be very hard to beat wherever she goes. She jumps like an absolute natural. Looking forward to seeing Andy Dufresne wherever he goes. I don't know what you've made of him so far.
Oh yeah, fine horse. Jay's a lovely horse.
His performance in Navan was quite extraordinary.
It was just a maiden hurdle, and he'd be huge,
very good.
Huge step up to
Alpine Cobra beating 18 lengths back in third. Not a bad horse.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, wherever Andy Dufresne goes, I'd be very willing to back him.
Okay, Andy Dufresne. Tote customers can ring in the new year at Punchestown with free tickets to the Tote sponsored day on December 31st. You can claim your tickets on thetote.com. Davy, happy Christmas to you. You don't really get that much of a Christmas dinner, do you?
Nowadays I do. I kind of suffered that night and the next day, but Santa Lily is wondering if she can actually drive Santa's sleigh.
Right, great.
So it's
Christmas when Santa's around is great, isn't it?
It's pretty exciting, yeah.
Yeah.
I actually keep telling you, I actually saw Santa Claus's sleigh going across the moon when I was a kid coming out of. We used to go to Mass on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
And my family none of them saw it the same night, but I was telling Lily, and She actually saw Santa the other night.
Class.
He was out around the all.
Having a scout.
Yeah, so he's on the rounds.
Right. Well, we've got a couple of days left. Davy, thanks a million. Best of luck with everything.
Yeah,
Cheers.
Thanks.
Friday Night Racing.
On Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie.